Hello, everybody. Welcome to this amazing webinar where we're going to be discussing our latest real-time FX workshop. Sjors and Lush will be showcasing some of the effects and projects they will cover in the workshop. Plus, they will showcase and deconstruct some cool effects they watch when they need some inspiration or references. So I think it's okay if we cue the promo for the stylized real-time FX workshop one more time. All right, that's it. I think it looks cool. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we hope so too.
Yeah. So the workshop starts on May 7th. So there's still more or less 2 weeks away, but closing in soon. We run our workshops 4 times per year. So when we close the registration on May 7th, it will be a few months before we open them back up again. So the reason for that is, the reason we have a schedule like that is so we can offer the best support and care to the people that have joined, because we always take quality over quantity. Before everyone asks, the workshop is intended for junior to intermediate skill level. So if you're a beginner that wants to get into the industry or already have some skills under your belt, you are most welcome. All right, so that's the scripted intro. We're going to go unscripted now. So let's go to our main presenters for today. We have Sjors and Lush. How are you guys doing?
Feeling really good.
Yeah, feeling great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, I can't wait to see what you guys are going to showcase. I think it's going to be a lot of nice stylized visual effects. It's going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can start with a quick introduction and then go straight to the presentations. I mean, I guess we can start with Sjors, then we can go to Lush.
All right. So, hi guys. So my name is Sjors. I'm originally from the Netherlands and now currently living in Scotland. I've been working in the industry for around 3 years now. I've previously worked at Axis Studios and now currently working at Tuatara VFX. And yeah, in case you guys are watching, shout out to you guys. And yeah, I love all things animation, like arts, like stylized stuff. And in case in regards to the workshop itself, it will be split up into 2 blocks, like of 4 weeks each. At least my part will be a bit mainly focusing on creating different effects with increasing difficulty, and also going on focusing on solving artistic problems, and going over different stylistic choices and how you can approach different types of effects. And yeah, that was it from me. Thank you,
awesome.
Thank you guys for all being here. It's been an honor presenting for you all and with you. So
awesome, cool stuff.
Yeah, so hey, nice to have you guys also around here. So I'm Lush. I'm a VFX artist from Spain, and yeah, for the course I'm currently presenting this photo effect that has been showcased in the promo, and then again a couple of effects that are like radial effect and then a directional effect. But I'm going to be also teaching you guys how to make playable scenes, so you can have your own VFX presented in a proper way, so it looks like it's a real game, a real environment, and so it's more likely for the recruiters to actually like your work. So in fact, like it's kind of like super cool to have that little extra thing there. And we'll have some AI for we'll have some enemies spawning. We'll have AI for the enemies. We'll have a health system. We'll have knowledge to create some skills, to transform those skills, to be able to change that to your liking. And so then again, I'm showing you how to make the effects included on those weeks, both in Houdini and in Blender. We are also going to be using like Photoshop, Substance Designer, software like that. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that you mentioned that presenting your effects is very important when it comes to, if you put them in your show reel or if you're just posting them on social media. It's always better if you put them in an environment and maybe you add some animation instead of, we talked about this yesterday. Like we all kind of like just having two spheres kind of fighting each other. Like that's pretty cool. But I think if you really want to showcase your skills and all the other kind of things, it just makes you more valuable as an artist if you know how to do all of these things. So yeah, presentation is very important, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, showing it in context is becoming sort of more and more important now, and like you like clearly see if it like will work in context or not. And like indeed the spheres like attacking each other is kind of becoming like sort of a crux, and preferably people would like to see less of that, but more like things in context, so to speak.
Yeah, context, it's super important, especially when it comes to gameplay effects. It's very important. Anyway,
go ahead.
I think you guys are going to be talking about that more when you actually start with your presentation. So I think we can actually jump into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to monitor the chat. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to write them down and we are going to be answering them towards the end. But I think you guys can jump into your presentations and you pick who's going to go first.
Sjors, you want me to go first?
Sounds good.
Okay. So let me share my screen here. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, it works.
Okay, great. So I could start by showing some of my main references or sources of inspiration for when I begin creating effects, if that sounds right to you guys. At first, the effect that I'm going to be like kind of more digging into in this webinar is going to be this portal effect, right? And so for creating this effect, I was really inspired by games such as Ratchet & Clank here. As you can see, I think it's muted.
Yeah, it's muted. Dude, I love that. The visuals in that game.
It's a mix of super stylized and then like kind of realistic, like the smoke here. I feel like it's a real good combination.
Yeah.
And so we've got like a couple portals here and there that I used as a reference. But I'm not taking references only from games. I'm also taking references from I think this is a student reel I took from YouTube. So sometimes inspiration comes from anywhere really. So you can just be wandering around YouTube and seeing like student reels and or you could be like watching a movie like Warcraft and then like having that like the feel for those like kind of energy tendrils here is what led me to creating those kind of energy flowing into the portal. And so just the way I see these kind of refraction, I tried, as you can see the sun there, I tried like emulating everything, like bits and pieces from here and there, and then like making like my own Frankenstein monster, I guess. So you can see the sun through the portal, really, but it's got some transparency to it, but not that much. It's super opaque. So then again, it has some refraction here at the edges. I hope you can see that, like heat gate like kind of effect. And so then we've got some classic Stargate references for the portals. This is a must in each portal effect. Then the Doctor Who, just taking inspiration from different movies. And then this is a portal effect we made with the Tuatara team back in Godfall. And I really like the fact that we created that small anticipation, like air compressing and expanding, and then making the portal come into the center. And then we made a couple iterations of this portal here. It was like super complex, but then we want something more like effective, simple but effective. And so yeah, we added some ripples here and there. I could show you how to make that too. But yeah, and some other games I really like taking inspiration from. Fortnite. It's super stylized, and I think it really fits the topic of this webinar and the workshop itself. But yeah, so what I really like about Fortnite is the fact that they achieve like a lot by conveying like all of these elements here might just be like stretched glows or stretched textures, billboards, you name it. And then we've got those solar coasters, those kind of textures spanning on those meshes that, if I'm not mistaken, you've shown how to make those on the previous workshop, right? For the solar flares and stuff like that. It's really similar to what they've done here. And so yeah, they are using distortions and everything like that. So then again, this kind of laser that reminds me of what Sjors made for the course, which is kind of awesome. Like, I really like the fact that it's so close to what they have in Fortnite. And then like explosions, stylized kind of, how was that thing called, Sjors? The circus? You have to study on those.
Yeah, the Eternal Circus.
Eternal Circus, right. So yeah, I guess they are taking inspiration from like those kind of 2D, more anime-like references too, and then some explosions. And so here is one of the games I usually tend to look at most when trying to get inspiration. So it's Genshin Impact. I think you guys might know this one. It's an anime-like video game, and it has like super cool and super stylized kind of effects. Really like the fact that even if the screen is clustered with a lot of elements, you can still clearly see the what's happening there. And I really like it. I know what do you guys feel about it? Is that your kind of style, or?
It's definitely my kind of style. I love anything anime related. It's just the best.
Yeah, and that leads me to the next point, which is taking inspiration from anime.
Yes.
And not only the inspiration for the effects themselves, right? So we can see some bits of the anime here. Now, I'm not trying to spoil anything. Just if you haven't watched One Punch Man yet, go ahead and do it. But yeah, it's more like not taking inspiration not only from the effects themselves, but also from the structure of those episodes. So this is a battle, right? It's a final battle, which is super intense all the time. We've got that high violent pace all the time, and then there's this moment here where the villain sends the hero to the moon, and then it stops everything. Like the rhythm goes, the intensity goes like almost to zero. And then we wait for a bit and begin creating anticipation again, and anticipation. And then there's the kind of small build up, a long time, and then it just goes all over the place. Just let me find the moment here.
I think all the good effects have anticipation, build up, and then release. Those are kind of the three main elements to every good effect. Yeah,
exactly. And animes do this thing like really well, because they hire the most professional animators they can for those kind of shots, so they end up looking super amazing. And here there's another bit of the effects I like doing is the aftermath, like having some kind of, like if it's explosion, as Sjors made that Dreidel explosion, so it has like scorch marks on the floor, or maybe we have some lingering particles or stuff like that. I really like that touch there. And so we also have like effects like eye candy effects, which are more like all the effects have to be balanced. They can't be like super over the top all the time, because that way that they lose the intentionality. But so yeah, those are my main sources of inspiration for when I'm trying to work on an effect. And another thing like is adding, even if it's an anime, adding some cinematic elements to it, like we did for this course with the presentation, for example. We are presenting it in a super cinematic way. Urban made the cameras work fantastic. And in this case, for example, we've got two characters fighting, and then when the climax is about to happen, like all the lights go down, like it's a darker image, like emulating a camera lens trying to compensate for the exposure, right? So if you can, I've seen some people do that on the effects, in which they reduce the lights of the environment. In fact, we made that on Temtem. We just turned all the lights down and then let the effects shine. Mm-hmm. And even if that's something that you can't really afford to do in a lot of games, if you can, try to do that, because it really works. So I really like it. Yeah. So let's take a look at the. At first, let's take a look at the top-down bit of the workshop. This is the kind of the scene that we are going to be creating. All right. So this is the finished product. You guys will be making this from scratch, and as you can see, all these spheres here are spawners for enemies. I might lag a bit now here, just because the it's on, and I'm sharing my screen and everything. But yeah, let me just reduce those. Just expand a couple.
We need more enemies. Not enough.
I've got a ton here. Let me just leave some of those. Okay, yeah, these ones. Okay, so let's make the full screen. Are you still seeing my screen, guys?
Yeah, it's a bit laggy, but it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we've got this scene. We can move around. We'll be making this cursor too, customized cursor, while we wait for the assets to download, because we are using Paragon assets, which are free and great to use if you don't have like any specific assets you to create this kind of project to present your stuff. It's always nice to get those kinds of assets, because they're really good quality. But yeah, so we'll be making this, and the environment too. We'll learn how to properly like edit the scene, the post-processing settings, so you can like when you hit an enemy, you affect the post-processing, and you make it look so like it's got more chromatic aberration or more blur, or like camera shakes, stuff like that. So if we play again, if we press 1, we'll be great. It's lagging on my computer. If you press 1, we'll be making this jump, kind of like this radial effect. Okay, and if we press number 2, we are going to be using this punch skill. And so let's dive into the character just to take a glance at it, and we can open this blueprint. It's all made using blueprints. You don't have to know any C++ to code this project, right? So if we press number 1, we can use a skill. We are setting that you can't use the skill no more up until you finish the attack, just to avoid like a kind of weird artifacts happening. And then you activate this event, which is going to execute all of this code here to make the character jump. And then when it comes down, just spawning the radial effect, and then spawning the effect itself. It's a separate actor. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the actors. They are like kind of, if you're a Unity users, it's like prefabs. Okay, it's like a set of data that you contain between in one object. And so this guy is an actor, the enemies are another actor, and the effects are another actor. So if I want to spawn an effect, I'm spawning this blueprint here. And what this is just like a sphere, like it's detecting the collision with the enemies. And then we've got some effects here. And we've got the scorch, normal. These are decals. These are the bits that stick to the ground. So it's got like that lingering effect we talked about earlier. And we are applying some small radar force, so you'll be pushing the enemies outwards. And so yeah, when that happens, like if it's colliding with the if something's colliding with that sphere, we're going to be checking if that's an enemy. Just because if that's the floor or if that's ourselves, you don't have to do nothing, right? and then we are hitting that enemy. This is the enemy blueprint. This is Bellica from the Paragon assets, and the character we're using is Scrunch from the Paragon assets. And so yeah, they are just dark like this because they look way cooler this way, but also because I tried to make everything as kind of neutral as possible color-wise, so your effects will be more on top of everything. But later on, it's super nice for you to change the environment, test it on a real environment. So if just to check everything and see if you might need to change something, because sometimes something looks good in this scene but might not look good on a darker scene or perhaps on a brighter scene or like on top of a green background. So just try out stuff like that. But yeah, again, like this is the enemy character. When you hit it, we are going to make it react, like the material is gonna react to the effect. And then also this has a life system, so we'll be checking if the enemy has been hit 3 times, so we can display like hit impacts and then again like a death BFX. And so yeah, this is mostly the project that we'll be creating. It's a fun project. It doesn't take that much to make it. It will take you probably 2 to 3 hours, I guess. But then again, you have to try out stuff on your end, and then like you're gonna be encountering some issues that I encountered while recording classes. I'm gonna show you how to work around those issues. And so yeah, this is the that bit of the workshop. Are you guys liking it so far?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. There's actually a direct question for you, I guess.
Okay.
Are we going to be learning any blueprints while doing this?
Yes.
Because obviously you were showing blueprints, and somebody who isn't familiar with blueprints, are you going to be explaining how they work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, essentially, I'm explaining everything. Like I'm doing a brief introduction, like showing how everything is working by showing you the nodes already there. But then again, I'm explaining what the nodes are doing and how you can, like, if you've got a node, that node might require for you to have another node. And so those dependencies are not really explained anywhere. And so it's kind of hard to grasp at first, but trust me, it's gonna be way better when you actually get and try to make the blueprints themselves. It's as you can see, some of those concepts for the logics of the gameplay are like the same. As for example, for the skills, this bit here is just checking if you press the number 1 key. We're gonna be checking if we can use an attack or if we can't use that attack. Mm-hmm. So it's like it seems like a lot just because you see a lot of stuff laying around here, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's just giving you a lot of options at the same time, and it feels daunting. But trust me that it's gonna be super fine. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I'm gonna be teaching some blueprints.
Sweet. So it will always be like very daunting when you see sort of the node spaghetti going on, but it's essentially just like layering like small bits and pieces together, so you get all these complex behaviors and things that you can do. But it will always be daunting like that, but it will be explained in the course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like not only blueprints, but like Substance Designer or like any other program that uses kind of those spaghetti nodes.
All node-based programs have kind of that like daunting factor. So
yeah, and so yeah, that's the part of the workshop that's gonna be that one. And so yeah, if you guys, I can, if you guys want me to, I can jump into the portal. But
yeah,
dude. Want to say something? Okay.
No, go ahead.
All right. Anyways, I'm gonna be answering your questions. If you join the workshop, I'll be there for you. If you need any specific blueprint related stuff or anything related to the workshop, me and Sjors will be there to answer your questions. So jumping into the portal scene, this portal scene will be making everything from scratch too. This scene is using assets from the marketplace too, and these are the mega scans assets, which is like a collection of like photo scanned assets, which are, let's say we've got a rock and we take a lot of pictures of that rock, and then we create a digital image of that rock, and then we take the data and we make the mesh. Just telling this just in case you don't know what photo scanning is. And that's why they look so great. And for presentation purposes, that's super good, but because it takes us to an awesome place with the less amount of effort and time. And that doesn't mean that you're like kind of doing anything bad. I mean, if you don't sell those assets, it shouldn't be easy just for presentation purposes. But so we'll be scaling some of these rocks. This is not really a mountain, it's just a big rock, a rock that we scaled up. And it's giving the illusion of it being a mountain just because we've got other elements into our scene, such as this exponential height fog. Unreal has a lot of cool elements that add up to the project and make it look more like kind of realistic. Have you? I think have you guys seen that that Quixel kind of short they made for with using Unreal that looks like super realistic?
Yeah, with the landscape.
Yeah,
it's super foggy, and with there's a spaceship something happening.
Yeah, so that's similar to what we are doing here in an essence.
Yeah.
And so we'll be creating this scene here, and then this is the portal, the main portal. It's got some tricks to it, and so it's also a blueprint. And let's open it. Okay. So you'll see that it's composed by some elements. Here we've got these mesh here. We'll be creating all of the meshes you see here, like this other energy mesh, the mesh for the outer ring of the portal, and the mesh for the inside of the portal, the rocks, everything, using both Houdini and Blender. Do you guys see Houdini on my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, essentially, just going over it super briefly. I'm creating this tube here. And so you can really see it because it's scaled down, because we've got an issue with scaling and Unreal. You have to scale everything up to 100 for it to be properly sized before you export it to Unreal. And then we are using this tube as a way to, and we are using some Vex code here. It's nothing complex, believe me, it's just this bit of code, this little snippet of code, and which it's doing, it's just creating some points at where those faces are here at the center of these faces. And so we are deleting everything else and just creating those points. And if we check the normals here, we've got some normals pointing outwards from the center of the portal. And so that will allow us to copy this here, which is let me disable this, which is like the shape at the around this ring here, and so we are copying it to the to those points. So we can like come here to the tube and then change the like the columns, and it will procedurally adjust to that. So you can transform it any way you want. And so yeah, and essentially this is the outer ring. I'm subdividing it and extruding it, and scaling it a bit down, and then beveling it on the edges. And so yeah, and then I'm softening the normals for like the mesh to be properly displayed on the engine. Quick UV shade for the UVs. I'm not really UVing it in a super detailed manner, and that's just because on the scene we can barely see the like the borders. We won't even notice it. The main focus of the portal is the center, like this kind of blue core here. And so this was just to prove the point that you don't really need to be like super perfect on everything. Like make make the 80% of the effect on 20% of the time, and then spend 80% of the time to dedicate to that project to create the last 20%, and like make a proper UVs and make all those finishing polishing touches, right? And so yeah, I'm teaching you how to make all the other scenes like these ones, both in Blender and Houdini. I mean, the more the merrier, I guess. Right. And yeah, so I'm creating some textures for the portal. I just made this one before, like waiting for the webinar to start. And let's try that out. Let's try if that texture really works. So this is the portal. Let me change the material a bit. So it is this material here. As you can see, it's kind of bluish and going towards the center, and it's fading here at the center. So let's change the texture for this one. No, it wasn't this one. It was the VFX noise here. Okay, so it's looking like more like kind of ethereal, I guess. So I'll be teaching you how to make the material so you can make it look something like this. Reminds me of the TFT, like kind of spawn portal when you go to the other's arena to fight, you know, something like that. And so yeah, we can change the band speed. We can adjust it to a line basically. And so now we've got another look for the portal. So yeah, let's try and change the this portal to look kind of fire-like. Okay, so super quick. Here we've got this Niagara system, which is related to the portal, and this other Niagara system is just a bunch of rocks coming from the environment into the portal. And that's just to make everything like consistent. If the portal is sucking in like energy from the environment, it's also cool to have like rocks coming into the portal too. And so yeah, let's hop into the Niagara portal system. So here it's just a bunch of curly particles floating around the center of the portal. And let's change that the color, I guess. Here, let's change that to be like something like that. And I'll try to be quick here, guys. Okay. Something like that. That looks kind of fiery. All right. And now let's change the portal material. So as you can see, now we've got like a lot of contrast because blue and orange are complementary. So it's kind of popping up a lot, looking kind of cool. And so let's change the material in real time. So we can change the colors here, like something like this, perhaps. And yeah, so we now have the core and the particles being orange, but something doesn't feel quite right. And that's just because we've got some other elements to the portal that add a lot of life to it, which are those couple of spotlights here that have a material function that makes them look like they are caustic lights. So if we see here at the floor, by the way, we also see that we have some issues here. And that's just because we were just gonna present the effect from this point of view. So we don't have to be perfectly laying everything out. So yeah, and so if you take a look at the ground, you'll see it has like, it's flickering in a sense, super slowly, but it's flickering. And we can see some kind of noise flowing around. And so that's made by this material function here. And let's change the color of the lights to something more orange, like so. And also the energy on the edges. Let's change the color on that one too. Yeah, so now we've got like this fire-looking portal. Oh, the lights are super. By the way, we've got this other light here for light. Make it like this, I guess, and the lights more tilted towards something like this. Okay, so yeah, that's like a fiery-looking portal that we've made, and as you can see, like it's nice to be able to rapidly iterate and check for looks. And like, let's say this one doesn't convince me, so we could easily jump in and create like a green version or like a combination of both, and then add elements on top of, or remove elements, or yeah. So we've been learning how to do all of this on the course. So yeah, hope you guys liked it. I'm really pumped for this course. So I know that you guys will enjoy it.
Dude, love it. It's so cool, like seeing the advantages of real-time where you can literally just switch the material, you change the speed, you change all the lights, and it's a different kind of effect.
Like yeah, that. In fact, like I've got like a couple friends of mine that are like offline rendering folks, VFX folks, and they hate waiting for the render to finish all the time. Yep. So yeah, that's a big advantage, and it's really cool. It's really cool. I've seen like VFX, like offline rendering VFX artists work on real time for just the look dev and like a first like a kind of concept for the effects, and then making it into like offline rendering. So you can easily lay out the scene itself and such. But yeah, it's really cool to have real time possibilities here.
Yep. Love it. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, yeah, I can't, like, I'm excited for the workshop.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Well, I guess we can go to Sjors then.
Yeah. Should I stop sharing my screen now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Second. Okay, should be good.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Were there any questions?
There
Were there
were.
any questions
Yeah, I
so
think
far?
Niagara or Cascade. What are we going to be using?
Okay, so yeah, for this course, we're going to be using Niagara, but the core principles also apply to Cascade. Cascade is going to be deprecated now on on Unreal 5, but it's still a nice way to, like,
No,
if you want
nobody's
to
using it.
yeah,
Nobody's
yeah, okay.
using it anymore.
Nobody's using it.
It's gone. It's done. When's the new? If you get a new particle system, that's it.
Yeah, essentially.
Cascade will slowly die. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, but in essence, the core principles will still apply to Cascade. So if you guys need like any advice on how to make that on Cascade, I'll be happy to assist you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sure. There was a good question. Do we need any drawing skills to join? I don't think for this workshop we don't. It's obviously good to know some drawing skills. Maybe Sjors actually does, and Lush as well. They both do 2D effects as well. Mm-hmm. It's always good to know how to do 2D effects, just to sharpen your skills a bit in terms of the way the effect should move, the dynamics, the shapes, and everything. But you don't need any drawing skills for this workshop, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should all be good. Yeah. It's okay then. So I start with sharing my screen. So what we'll be talking about is this effect right here, that you also might have seen in the trailer. I will basically going to be talking a bit about how this effect sort of came to be, and sort of give tips on how to sort of create ideas yourself, and also make sort of something that doesn't exist and sort of make that into reality. So sort of how this effect came to be. It started off as sort of quite a sort of simple idea. So like the main inspiration for this was actually Moira from Overwatch, if you guys have seen it, and that was kind of sort of the main idea behind behind this effect. But in this case, I wanted to have sort of a real life motif sort of woven into it, sort of an idea that can sort of be still like traced back into the real world and weave it into the aspect of the effect itself. And in this case, I went for incorporating it into the actual texture work of the effect. So it was kind of sort of like a simple idea. I wanted sort of feel evil, and sort of the first thing sort of came to mind. Oh, spider webs have some kind of a connotation, right? So that's sort of what I chose to sort of incorporate into the actual texture work for the effect, and also like the color scheme like this to sort of also help that. And yeah, that's sort of how the look came to be. If you want to go beyond that, is asking yourself for which platform am I going to be making it for? So in this case, I sort of went into choosing it for a third person MOBA, and in that case, there are probably some things you need to keep in mind. Is that from which angles will it be seen from? Does your effect need to have some optimization so it will not cause any issues? And basically in your concept stage, you can if there is some way to visualize it for yourself and make it easy for you to see what is needed, and it will help sort of answer the questions of which type of resources you will need, as well as getting to know what things you might need to iterate upon later. So like if you, for example, say you want to create something like something new, you can say that you can sort of always you can always refer back to like real life, because they'll always have the best like designs for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
nature has the best design ever. It's
yeah,
perfect.
always.
Yeah.
Like in a way you can say you can take the shapes of this rose, for example, and make it return as your like overall shape of the effect. You can, for example, say you take the movement of silk moving in the wind, or you say you take like a light installation and sort of give that sort of streakiness of that sort of light installation, so as like a motif for like a sort of like a spell effect of some kind. And yeah, if you then sort of like want to then mix it up with your own visual library, I think there will be like a very good basis for creating something new, and also feel sort of still grounded, so to speak. It's not always that it has to be a visual cue that has to be like incorporated into it. It could also be just the way it moves, or sort of the way it times. So let's say, I think there was a good example given on a certain effect from Diablo 3, and basically was sort of a shockwave effect that spread out away from the player. And they were saying that sort of the main inspiration for that was like carpet bombing. And initially, you might not have seen it as such that it was the main like inspiration for that, but once it was sort of mentioned, you will see that you'll see that you will see what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So you not always have to be looking into the visual aspects. You can also take it in all the other like aspects of animation and like use that as sort of like again the motif of your effect. So if you now actually go into here, I will actually now go over. You can see this is sort of the main texture work that has been done. But if you want to now, let's say, approach this in a procedural way, how would you go about this? So right here, these were the textures that were used from it. And basically, the way I like to think of it is, look for the procedural steps that will closely like resemble your end result. And by that, I sort of mean this. So I started off with like an anisotropic noise, but initially I wanted to be like, what is needed for making all of those like crossing, like those lines that go over and under each other. So first off, deforming these with a Perlin noise, and then to sharpen all of these edges, I basically pushed all of the pixels together with the. Or actually, I'm increased the complexity by multi-directional warping this again. So in these levels basically means so I create some like variety in the height. And over here, I basically start to push everything together, so you get all of sort of the sharper like lines. And then eventually, what was missing here is sort of the clumps, and I basically just like try to clump some more things together. So that's kind of what's happening here. And then again, like increase some of the complexity. And so that's sort of how this sort of looking to be. But in terms of like stylized work, it you could say make also sure that you know what like how like what I mentioned before is like what type of platform or game you want to make it for, and then sort of keep in mind that you do not put too much detail into your like overall effect or texture work, because you might make something for like a top-down MOBA game, but this is like all this detail you will probably not see. So make sure they are also like designed for your appropriate like target platform, so to speak.
Yeah, what I really like is that you guys kind of make that super optimized. Like you pack all the textures into one texture and then pick the channels from those. As where I do like just use a simple texture and then change that texture to kind of do some R&D to check how the noise is fitting into the effect and such. It's okay to do that if you're exploring new stuff, but as George said, like take into account if you're working for a mobile or wherever it might be, make everything optimized. So we're teaching how to do that in this class.
Yeah,
in this class.
Yep.
Yeah, that was something that will also like come up. But let's see.
Yeah, I remember me and Sjors, we worked on Gears of War 5 together, and I don't care about optimization, and Sjors is all about optimization, so we are perfect for each other.
But you should.
What I do, I just render 8K textures. I don't care. I don't care. I want 128 frames, 8K smokestacks. They need to be sharp, but obviously it doesn't work. And the performance is impossible to, it's impossible to implement something like that into a game. So yeah, then Sjors kind of takes over, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you probably make a lot of technicians very anxious.
Yes, yeah. People yell at me all the time.
Oh, that sounds a bit sad, but you know. But let's see. Like, if you want to sort of go back to the beam itself, like in terms of like the design aspects of this, like the way I wanted to approach this is look at sort of the primary detail, the secondary, and the tertiary detail. So as you'll see that if you look at this like at first glance, you'll see that this will be like the most most visible part of the effect. And yeah, this will also basically be in this case for sort of the target platform will be our area of effect. And all of the tertiary detail will basically be all of the energy that gets dispersed away from from the center. And then the tertiary detail, if you like look at it more closely, you'll see also these embers, and in a sense you can also see sort of the texture detail that's going on. So if you actually go into to some of the materials for this, like in a way, the materials for this can actually be like were kept like pretty simple, because it was in essence made up of so many components.
Mm-hmm.
But if you will, for example, take the material for the main beam here, so in like the beam itself here is sort of a beam component, is what it's called in Niagara.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that kind of happened here was adding a like putting down a sphere mask and then using it in only one direction, and then adding a offset based on these textures right here. So basically that will offset the radius of the sphere mask like in either direction. And also what's happening here in the beginning is that this basically means this basically is for like the beginning part of the beam that will be sort of the most intense, and like none of the darker energy will like basically show through here. And overall, this will be this is like the opacity for this, and that's basically all there is to it. And if you want to go over the meshes, so this is sort of the mesh you'll sort of see here. This is basically sort of like a carrier for all of your. You can basically see sort of like a carrier for your textures, and this case this can help with making sure that the effect holds up from all your like multiple angles, so to speak. And Like this is, for example, also like reused in like one element here. You will see it very faintly, but sort of to sort of like give the exhaust of the beam a bit more sort of like bite, and it makes it feel a bit more grounded, so to speak. But this is basically like in essence it's the same mesh. And for another one, like right here, the disk, this is basically used for all of the energy dispersion that's going out. But from the side, you might see that like it will sort of fade away, and that's why sort of like a bit more like offset is added to this, so you can still make sure that the that this dispersion is somewhat visible from the side. Yeah, it's all up to sort of your specifications. If for example this energy had to be more like visible from this side, you could say that you could sort of let this fade away and let, for example, this backblast carry the visual interest a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, if you go to the actual sequencer itself, so it is built up out of around like 5 components. It's basically a 2 effects that are attached to each hand, as well as a light that has a bit of like a flickering going on, so to reflect it off like her face. This is something we're also going to be using in like in the class itself. This is basically is the face from the Paragon assets. And if you let's play this again, you will see that it will slowly ramp up to make sort of the like hand energy be a bit bigger, and then actual explosion happens, and then we let it sort of settle a bit. And you also see that the smoke will then be blasted a bit more backwards, and then eventually, once the like beam settles down again, the smoke and all the embers will also like dissipate.
Looking great.
Yeah.
And also, like one thing, of course, to keep in mind here is something called the pull this up if it wants to show up. And let me find it, sorry. The shader complexity.
Mm-hmm.
So, like it will, you see that it has lots of elements, but what this basically represents is all of the overdraw. So, and as you can see here, like this will be like a hotspot, which basically means that there will be around like 10 or more layers of transparency that are layered on top of each other, and like for performance, that's very, very like bad, because over here this basically means that the engine is trying to figure out what to render first. And that's sort of like very like computationally heavy. Like what you can do here is to make sure that your shaders are not too complex. Like as I've shown here, like it could overall be kept very simple, but it really depends on the complexity of what the behavior of your shader needs to be. Like a lot of this will also come from like all of the optimizations you probably need to do for, let's say, if you come close to the camera, that for example needs to be faded out, or any like specific operations that need to be turned on or off in like a different environment, for example. But also where you can do to like reduce the overdraw is something that is called the cutout textures, and this basically means that sort of it will not be just random plots, but the area that is not needed will sort of be cut out. If I actually think this might take a while to disable this all, but let's see.
And Sjors, this is just one of the many effects that you're going to be showing in the workshop, right?
This is basically going to be one of 4.
Yeah.
And in essence, what I will be showing as well is sort of like effects that will sort of increase in like visual complexity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will go for this just in a sec. But as you can see, like right here, it sort of cuts out the texture for you, and that will sort of save a bit of overdraw right here. Like if it's going to be showing up as like really like a really bright white hotspot, then you know that something's up here and really need to make sure that you need to cut something somewhere.
Yeah.
So in essence, what you will be like trying to achieve is getting the most out of the least amount of resources possible, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, Jesse just asked, is optimization going to be covered in the workshop?
So it's going to be mostly like covering like what I just mentioned, that we make sure that we can keep the shaders quite simple, but all of the actual like optimizations, like for example camera fading, all of those types of things, those will not be covered. But since we're sort of making this for like a presentation type scenario, like we can keep it sort of more simpler that way, and we just purely focus on the visual fidelity of all the effects themselves.
Yeah, and also if you join the workshop and if you have any questions about optimization and how to make it even more efficient than it already is, we are going to be able to help you guys and answer any questions. So yeah, we're going to cover everything.
Yeah, that should be all. That should be all good. So if we go quickly over all the other ones, so this will be sort of something that will be covered in, I think, the second week, because this basically will be a sword slash that is going to be for more like top-down games.
Yep.
So like basically you will like I will mention here how to create the meshes for them in Houdini, and also as you can see it will do 2 slices. There's some specific technique that will be covered there. That is called the spawn group, and then you can basically let the system decide what each burst needs to do, like once it is triggered. And over here, this is the polyblast. This is something we will sort of cover in the first week. This is more like inspired by Promare, and what we will cover there is sort of the more stylistic problems we are going to try and solve. And let's see here, we're going to then also cover how to like trigger this via the sequencer, via a blueprint event. So simply just saying it will then just activate it. And then the final one, which will be the pulse ROM, and this is also mostly emphasizing the that sort of the like textures we're going to be creating will drive most of the look of it. And we're also covering on how to like spawn in this decal via a parameter collection, and and I think that's basically about it from my end.
This one's really cool.
Yeah, dude.
Really like this one.
This one is cherry on top. Yeah. So good. I love it. This effect essentially has everything that Lush was mentioning before. It has the anticipation, the release, and then the fall off. So those are all the elements that you kind of need to create. It's almost like when you're writing a movie script, you usually have 3 acts. Every act has more acts. Every scene essentially is breaking down into different components. It's the same with effects, and It's also the same with music. It's the same with any art form, really. You can always break it down into its main components, and you can kind of see the pillars that everything is standing upon. And then once you get those fundamentals going, everything just gets easier. And this is kind of related to the question that somebody asked. What is kind of, so how do you guys prefer to block out your effects before you get into heavy particles, before you get into heavy shaders? How do you block it out?
So for me personally, I like to visualize by actually concepting it out. Or if you, for example, say are more comfortable with photo bashing something together, that is also like a really good way to take something and visualize it for yourself, what you like to make. But let's say it's always preferred if you like keep references open at all times.
Yeah.
And let's say you have a element that's, for example, what your shapes is going to be made out of, and for example, an idea for what the like the color scheme of your beam will need to be, for example, or take inspiration from a certain show or movie you like, and take an element and incorporate into that. But for me personally, I would just like to concept it out so I can clearly see what do I need, and like what resources will I need to make, and what will take the most time in terms of like problem solving, and basically that.
Awesome. Love it. And you, Lush?
Yeah, on my end. So what I really like to do is just I've got back a set of assets that I mostly use 90% of the time, which are just like a sphere or that kind of a mesh that pans around, or an helix or something like that. So I just grab those and stick them into a particle system, and then having those references that Sjors said, like take references from wherever you feel like. I mean, you can see maybe an effect on Twitter, and then go like, hey, I could do like a version of that one, and then like begin creating, like you begin like when you do a lot of effects, you end up like having a system without even thinking about it. Like you think like, let me try and do this by layering this on top of that, and you begin working on it like this. And then you just create like the main, the core, the essence of the effect. Let's say it's an explosion, so the core would be like the big poof of fire and smoke. And so you make a hand painted texture for that, or you explore a new a new simulation in Houdini or something along these lines, and then you throw it into the engine and see if that works, and then begin tweaking from there. And you can take inspiration and tweak that from like in the middle of the process, or perhaps you'll have a happy accident, and you'll end up like spawning like 70 of those, and then it'll look even better. So yeah, that's the way I usually kind of approach effects.
Yeah, I love both of those approaches. I think I do a mix of both of them. I sometimes just sketch it out really fast, just so I can see what I want, and I sketch it out in stages. And then I just use simple spheres and very simple geometry to animate my effects. And then, but it also depends if I'm working in Unreal or if I'm working in Houdini. It kind of, but the process is just a bit different. But I think the thinking behind it doesn't really matter. It's always the same, even if you're working in Houdini in pre-rendered or in real time. I think it's always about layering, creating multiple layers, starting with something simple, and then just making it more complex. Yeah. Because a lot of times I see effects that they look really complicated, but essentially it's just 3 layers, one on top of the other. And then you're thinking, how did they make all of those 3 layers work with each other? And sometimes it's just one layer on top of the other, and they're just blended, very simply, but it looks like they're integrated. So it's creating complexity through layering, I think, is the key when you're starting with your effects.
And if I add to that, if there's like, let's say, a certain really complex or daunting thing you would like to make, but you have no idea on how to actually get all of this done, Let's say there's a certain aspect of this thing you would like to sort of like tackle first, as in take something like that is a lot smaller in scope and see how that is solved. And then I think in that sense, you can also like build up sort of like a repertoire of like different aspects of an effect, or like a very like specific thing, and then you know how to sort of combine this together in something that's more complex. Sort of more of a like a granular approach in how you let's say study things, so to speak.
Yeah.
Sort of like the I think I've heard it mentioned before by someone else, sort of the deliberate practice method, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, love that. There was a question, I think some people were a bit scared about the stuff you were showing in Houdini, Lush. So the question was essentially, is this course going to be friendly for beginners in terms of Houdini? And I think it is. I think.
Yeah. I mean, it is beginner friendly. Like, it's always nice if you go to YouTube and search for beginners Houdini tutorial, like to see just the viewport and how everything works, and you get to play with the hotkeys and like get familiar with the environment, of course. But if you never ever touch Houdini, it will still be fine. It's not really that complex. It's just understanding what nodes are and how to connect them. And like, I'm explaining everything like, hey, I'm creating a sphere here and I'm making it shrink, and then I'm moving it, and then I'm packing everything together and copying it. And so the most complex part, I guess, is the Bex code we use, which is kind of programming. But like, you don't really have to know that bit. It's just, we are using that as a way to spawn the details on top of the portal. You could just create the outer ring of the portal without those details. That's completely fine. And you could make it on Blender, which I'm always also teaching. So you don't really need to have Houdini or to know how to use Houdini.
Exactly. I think, and this is kind of relating to what's also some of the questions. In the first real-time workshop, that one is way more Houdini heavy. And for that one, you kind of do need to know, you at least need to be a beginner in Houdini for the first workshop. And then we take kind of beginner level concept and push them into something more advanced. For this workshop, we are mostly working with Unreal Engine and just really focusing on the stylized aspects of effects, and just, kind of really trying to focus on the magical kind of aspects, magical and stylized aspects of effects. So that's also the difference between this workshop and the one that in the previous one. So
like way more focused on the looks, and so like in essence, I think in most cases you can keep the meshes for like you can keep the meshes fairly simple overall.
Yep. Let me see. I'm just gonna go through some of the other questions, and if anybody who is still on the webinar, if we haven't answered your question, just type it in the chat, and we're gonna try to do it right now. One of the question was, how often do we interact with? So as a student, how often do students interact with instructors? And the answer is all the time. We are essentially almost always lurking around the forums, and there's a dedicated Discord forum for this. There's a dedicated Rebel Way Academy for this, where you submit your assignments and then we look at them and comment on them. And on Discord, we are essentially just always chatting, and you're chatting with your teammates, with your team, and then with us as your instructors. So there's always support. So no need to worry about that. Let's see what else. I think that's it in terms of my questions. Let me see if there's something else in the chat. With Houdini Apprentice, they can, right? I mean, can they? Dude, I always forget with Apprentice. Can they?
Yeah. Like, I think they can do it in Apprentice. Like in Apprentice, the only thing is that you've had like a watermark on the renders, right?
For renders, yeah. But you can export. You can export OBJs or
I think,
right?
Yeah. And even if they couldn't, like, they could work around it. Like on Blender too, they could do it. Software. I mean, yeah. the principles stay the same, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, let's see if there's anything else. We're gonna take like 5 minutes for the last questions if anybody has anything. Jesse was asking recommended poly count 5 million. At least 5. Yeah. So there was a shot in Gears, and we were doing a massive destruction. Essentially, there's this whole collapse of the ground essentially collapses. And we did the simulation in Houdini, and I think I had 1,500 pieces, so 1,500 pieces. And that was super optimized by my logic, because in Houdini, usually you have millions of pieces falling down and crumbling. But I had 1,500. I was feeling very confident. And they told me, that's great. We need to get it down to 150. I was like, oh my God, there's literally, it's going to look like there's 3 pieces falling in. But with some, you could fake a lot of stuff with textures and adding debris in texture form. Like, not everything has to be like an animated mesh. Yeah, it has to be super optimized, which breaks my heart every time.
It's the reality of real time, eh?
Yeah. Dimitri is asking, blueprints is an inner language in Unreal, like WAP context in Houdini.
Blueprints, with what blueprints are, is just a bunch of C++ code, but it's transformed into this visual kind of boxes that you can use and move around and connect between them, so you don't have to type any code. In essence, it's C++. It's more optimal, obviously, to write in C++, like the code, but we don't need this for this course. And like most of the time, me as an artist, I've never had to do like C++ coding on any project. That's stuff for the engineering team. And if you ever have any other kind of question related to blueprints, I'll be around.
Yeah, that's cool. I still don't know how to use blueprints properly. I just hack everything together, and then I just ask around for help. Which is fine, because I think there's a big distinction between like visual effects artists and then technical visual effects artists. Usually they're referred as FXTDs. And you can be a very, very good FX artist and don't know any coding or any blueprints, but only if you really understand the basics of basics of animation, basics of colors, basics of shapes, and all of that. If you really, really understand all of that, you almost don't have to know coding, but it's a plus. And by coding, I mean blueprints in this case, or in Houdini, knowing some Vex and some FOPs. Yeah, it's a plus. It's always appreciated. Yeah. All right, I think that's it. Do you guys have any final encouragement words of wisdom?
Well, like, if you always a good thing to do is, in case you are interested in real-time VFX, or already are interested in real-time VFX but haven't done so yet, or make sure to join the real-time VFX forums and discords. Lots of people from the industry are there as well. That are able to help you out with any questions for that, and also posting up some really, really cool projects. And pretty much, I think this is the only one, if not the biggest, community for that. So definitely make sure to check that out.
So I guess my last words would be, nevertheless, go beyond. Think outside of the box, of what you usually do, and you'll end up learning a ton. Just step out of your comfort zone. If you've never made Flipbox on Houdini, just try it out. If you've never really made any, if you see any cool effects on a the Avengers movie, something like that, just go ahead and try to make it, because all you learn from it, you'll be able to apply that to all the other scenarios. So yeah, that would be my last kind of tip here.
Awesome. And Leonardo in the chat said, plus Ultra. So that's how
Plus
we're gonna
Ultra.
Yes.
that's how we're gonna end this.
Go beyond plus ultra.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, guys.
That's a good way to end the webinar. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you guys for presenting. I think it was awesome, and I can't wait for the actual workshop to start. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been an honor.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Thanks for stopping by.
Cool. I think Lush,
I might have to end this.
You
Okay.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Okay.
Smash.